Great to have you back with us, gentlemen. Continuing our conversation with Mohammed, Faraz Khan, Amit Kalra, and Shantanu Chakraborty, we will further discuss some additional key growth drivers shaping and expanding the contours of the GCC landscape in India, such as GCC's transitioning to a matured shared service model by developing global business services capabilities, as well as building sustainable value, not just for themselves, but also for their parent enterprises and the ecosystem at a broader level. So let's kickstart the discussion. In line with our conversation in the previous episode pertaining to the key growth pillars constituting the India value proposition, I would like to know your views on how a growing number of GCCs are now increasingly transitioning from the shared services operating model to a matured shared service model, sort of a GBS construct. And in today's day and age, GCCs are well and truly a multitude of benefits to offer, and it's beyond the traditional cost and talent arbitrage advantage that was looked at earlier. Be it in terms of handling multi-function portfolios, managing value-added business-critical operations, driving global functions to fast-track innovation and growth, or acting as strategic hubs, leading multiple outpost satellite locations while incubating units in other countries. So in light of these advancements and, with an accelerated focus on platformization across industries, how are the traditional operating models for GCCs changing, and how quickly and effectively do you think GCCs are evolving into a GBS powerhouse? So to begin with, Amit, I would request you to please share your thoughts on the transformation journey for Swiss Re as a GBS, and how is India increasingly gaining prominence as a GBS powerhouse?
Sure, Prerna. So I think it boils down to the why part, right? So the why at the start of whether it was Swiss Re's Global Center or any other organization, it was, let's be honest, it was cost, right? It was cost. It was eventually then it moved to footprint optimization. Then we started talking about where can we get scalable quality talent pool, to deliver on the responsibilities. And now as the credibility, confidence builds up, even the average age in the GCC is increasing. Yeah, there was a time when the average age was 26. Now it's going to 32, 35. So you have the talent pool which understands, the global strategy. What are the plans? The expertise is there, and then the technical digital capabilities, through upskilling and reskilling are also happening. So I think our from a positioning standpoint as well as an evolution perspective, it's moving more towards talent and capability hub, which is focused on driving some of the group initiatives, strategy, the must wins. It's not just execution only, but enabling new revenue streams, profitable revenue streams as well. And in general, if I have to say more from a GCC ecosystem, the overall approach is also changing. So earlier, if the approach was more tactical, now it's becoming more strategic. So it's becoming part of the boardroom discussions, CXO conversations, because you do realize that now we also realize 15, 20, 25% of the global talent pool for any organization is based out of GCCs. So here it becomes a strategic people planning topic as well, right? Now, then the next step is then how are we looking at removing the glass ceilings? So one thing which we have also realized is that we have definitely moved from junior to more of a mid-complex setup, right? And now the journey ahead is to make it more senior focused setup as well. And by senior, I don't mean, just managerial positions. I think it's more about thought leadership, global responsibilities, which are coming. Now, in terms of core operating model, I think we had good conversations in the first part where we talked about how the GCCs are becoming more integrated, right? There is also a shift from, internal outsourcing managed service model to more functionally integrated model, because if you have to remove those glass ceilings, the centers have to become, just an extension or just as one of the other global hubs of a particular business function. So that becomes important. And I'm sure Shantanu can talk more about it, but another trend that we are also seeing from GCC transformation is this hub and spoke approach, right? So it's no
Right.
longer just the economies of scale where you'll bring all the colleagues in one mega center,
Right.
but now it's a bit more distributed approach, yeah. So that and especially after the post-COVID behavioral trend, yeah, where talent is also becoming sometimes less mobile, and then when
Yes.
you have diverse talent hubs across the country or across the regions, yeah, why not have hub and spoke model, satellite offices, so that you build on those specialized capabilities, right? And my last point is that, and especially post-COVID, there is increased emphasis on employee value proposition, right? And it has
Right.
multiple angles. Firstly, from a development perspective, reskilling, upskilling, on the new tech trends, capabilities. The organizations are more purpose driven, right? So the focus on inclusion, sustainability, employee well-being are
Right.
right at the core. They cannot be ignored. They are not just another project. They are very much core to the values and ethos of the organization. Culture
Right.
is increasingly becoming a differentiator, right? Respect, ownership, innovation, mindset, and for people, immediate question is, what's in it for me from next 3 to 4 year perspective?
Right.
So, is there a clarity on career progression, the growth journey for
Right.
people to develop professionally as they join an organization? So these are, I just summed up holistic trends, not
Yes.
limited to
Yes.
just
No,
Swiss
very.
Re.
Right, right. No, very interesting thoughts. Thanks. Thanks for sharing those, Amit. Very well rounded up. And Shantanu, I would like to know your thoughts on these aspects as well.
No, no, sure. And I would like to kind of voice very similar, thoughts that Amit mentioned. But I would like to kind of, highlight it with the kind of conversations that we have with these GCCs, right? And I kind of just, pan out the evolution of such conversations. Uh, about 10 years back, or maybe about 12 years back, the conversations was about, we are doing this thing. This is what we are doing, and this is very critical, and all of that, right? As we moved, right, it became we are doing this, and this, right? And today, I think everybody talks about, yeah, we're doing so many things out of here, right? How that is translating into people, right? You earlier had one MD for a GCC, right? And he was our stakeholder, and we used to go and meet with him because, of course, he's a good stakeholder to be engaging with. It came to a point where there's a center head, but whenever we had the conversation with the center head, he brought with him along 3 or 4 other people who said, these are my key stakeholders, right? Who are basically could understand that they are heading certain key critical functions or processes, and are very critical for the overall decision making of how the spaces have to be. And today, on an average, our number of stakeholders per client or per GCC is anywhere between 7 to 8, in some cases even 12 to 15, right? So that's the scale at
Yeah.
which it is grown. I think about 5 6 years back, right, people have started coming to us and telling us that, we want your help uh, to really create centers of excellence, because I'm not just hiring a graduate and trying to skill him, right? We're hiring top talent. We're paying the highest amount of salaries,
Right.
right? Benchmark to sometimes the global salaries, and hence we want to give the best experience. So how can you as developers help us in doing that, right? So that's where the conversations have moved, and to the extent, right, when we've created or acquired or developed some very key marquee assets, right? We've understood that those GCCs want to block future space with us there, right? And they say, what, I want to, I know this is my growth story. I want you to kind of block this much of space, or your future supply that's going to come up. I want to kind of block that, and that's becoming extremely critical for us. So today, even with pandemic and all the hierarchy in the commercial real estate that we have seen globally,
Mhm.
and also to some extent in India, our key assets are still running at 100%. contractual occupancy, right?
Right.
Of course, from a physical occupancy perspective, we're still around about 40 to 50%. In some cases, about 60%, but not more than that. But that's what the importance of how these things have kind of moved across. So employee experience, like Amit mentioned, is very
Right.
critical today, right? How we are embracing inclusivity, diversity is becoming very important. Also, one more very critical theme that you've understood is that uh, sustainability, in the true sense of ESG, sustainability is not just
Right.
about another thing, is being driven from India, right? Few of our clients did their global sustainability strategy and implemented that through India, right? And they wanted us to participate in that, and help them in doing that. So
Right.
that was a very, I think for us as enablers of GCCs, we've understood that the our role is much more and larger than just being a real estate partner. We can be a partner to a lot more things than what meets the eye, because of the way the GCC landscape is changing going forward.
Great. No, great inputs and very valid points. So ecosystem enablers definitely play a major part in the growth of GCCs and the India story as well. So wonderful thoughts. I'll move on to the next question. In my next question, I would request you all to throw some light on certain key aspects that are increasingly gaining prominence. And Amit and Shantanu, you briefly touched upon those as well, such as inculcating diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sustainability as a key strategic imperative in the functioning of businesses, boardroom conversations, CXO conversations. How critical has it become for enterprises to stitch DEI and sustainability into the fabric of the organizational culture? And I would like to understand from all of you, how are GCCs playing a increasingly pivotal role in this journey, not just for themselves, but for their parent enterprises and ecosystem as well. Like Shantanu mentioned that the India GCC is sometimes driving, and we see it in digital transformation as well, that the India GCC is driving driving the agenda for the global parent as well. So it would be great if, you can share your thoughts on the same and elucidate these concepts with some illustrations from your particular enterprises. Amit, we can start with you, please.
Sure. So I think these are critical topics, and we don't even need to call them out separately because it's integral to strategy. So especially when it comes to inclusion, for Swiss Re Group, as we talk about our group must wins. In the same sentence, we also talk about our approach on inclusion, right? Because so that's very much core, right? That's what I wanted to highlight. I think in terms of approach, when we talk about AI, for us, it's an inclusion first approach, right?
Right.
Because when it comes to diversity, I think in India, it comes with design.
Yeah.
I can do 100 cuts
True.
of diversity, and then there will be 100 more colleagues who'll say, hey, I'm 101st, 102nd, you have to focus on that. So I think if the organizations focus on inclusion as an approach where we empower people, where there's respect at workplace, where people can be themselves, right? Where can they express themselves? So because what is the overall outcome that we would like to achieve? Yeah, that we bring in diversity of thoughts. Everyone feels it's a psychological safe environment for them to talk about, express. So that's where our entire focus has been on the inclusion first approach, and that's why we emphasize a lot on inclusive leadership. Right. And at the same time, we also say leadership is not limited to just the managers. Leadership is from every seat. Each and every individual is leader in their own right, and they have to be the role model when it comes to the inclusion behavior. Now, in specific aspects, if I talk about the visible diversity, so gender diversity, of course, is a key topic, and I'm sure for entire GCC ecosystem, because as we see that at the junior levels, we have good ratios, healthy ratios, and then as we move up the executive layer, gender diversity at managerial leadership level, executive management level keeps on dropping, which is not good. And I'm hoping that over next 5-10 years, this will change. But what we do is we put in a lot of intentional measures, and those are equity measures that we try to do so that we have a sustainable development and a balance on gender diversity. So right from, for example, recruitment, ensuring 50% gender slate. If you're doing panels, there has to be a women evaluator. The job descriptions have to be stress tested so that it should not be a male dominated roles, and quite a few measures around that. We have also come up with bespoke women leadership programs like Accelerate. We have come up with mentorship programs, Power Her, and embedded the inclusion topic in all our leadership interventions all through. And all this has actually resulted that over the last 5 years, our gender diversity in our setup has actually improved from 35% to 43%, right? While the industry is at 35. So when these intended efforts, initiatives happen, there is a progress. But I think we also need to work a lot as an ecosystem. How do we take care of returning women? How do we create more flexible work environment? Why the job should be just 100%? Why it can't be 60-80%? Just like how is there in Zurich and all. So that's a bit of flavor. I mean, I can talk more about LGBTI, mental well-being, but that's just a flavor on inclusion. I think you talked about sustainability as well. So for Swiss Re Group, our broader purpose is that we make the world more resilient. So we are in that business by default. So anyone who does anything in Swiss Re is more or less contributing to the broader social impact sustainability themes as well. But for us, we look at sustainability in multiple dimensions, from investment, from business to even operational. So our office in Bangalore, for example, we have a solar power plant, on our terrace, which contributes 30-40% of green energy. It's platinum LEED certified. In terms of operations and travel, we have put CO2 limitations. So it's not just about the money that you use. People are now making conscious choice. So instead of business class travel, let me do economy because the CO2 emissions would be less. So we give targets on CO2. And then we do a lot on the social impact side as well. So we have social entrepreneurship program where we incubate social enterprises, give them coaching, funding, and these are on sustainable themes. And as a nasscom, over last 2-3 years in the Bangalore chapter, we went ahead on the sustainability topic where we did rainwater harvesting installation in many of the government schools in Bangalore, which has not just supported those schools from water conservation. It has actually increased the education awareness of sustainability topic, but then also help increase the water table, in those local communities. So there's plenty to talk about that.
Wonderful. No, great perspective. And thanks for sharing such great examples and insights, Amit. Shantanu would like to know your thoughts as well on this, on these aspects.
No, sure. So I think fundamentally, like Amit mentioned, you don't need to call this out separately because it's core to the business. Because if you just think about from perspective of a person who cannot show up in the workplace or in the society declaring who he or she is and its true identity, you'll not be able to get the best productivity ideas, innovation, etc. from them. So it is very, very important to be 100% inclusive and and embrace diversity. India cannot be a better place than that to kind of demonstrate it. And then Amit has spoken on wide spectrum on that. But I'll just pick up two things that we are trying to do at our level to enable the GCCs in kind of furthering this agenda. So one is about the LGBTQI community, and trying to kind of make them inclusive. We are celebrating the Pride Month, but how does that translate into an environment that we offer them is going to be extremely important, right? And that entails into building gender neutral toilets, and creating facilities that they can feel comfortable using. That's number one, right? And we have a lot of our clients who are kind of participating and collaborating with us in giving us thoughts and ideas as to how we should go ahead and do it. The second is about physical disability, and how do we make universal accessible built environment.
Right.
Now, harmonious guidelines and RPWD Act and NBC 2016 are codes and standards which are there. But a lot of the buildings that anybody is operating out of, right, have been built to previous standards, right?
Right.
And in our business, we go and acquire such buildings. And one of our very key agenda is whenever we acquire a building, we put a program on how we can make them compliant to these three statutes, right? And specifically with the idea of universal accessibility. So whether it's about the braille tiles from the lobby all the way to the offices, whether it's about changing the heights of the panels on the lift to a lower height so that anybody who's physically challenged can easily access it, looking at not swing doors which will need effort to push but can open out automatically to enable people to do that. And effectively, when we have a charter of these, like any building that we go into, we know that these are the 15 things that we need to do, and we do them. And we have a consultant in place who comes and certifies all of this. Unfortunately, there's no body today which is there to certify this, but we do it at our end to ensure. And we've made a commitment that by 2025, every building that we have acquired before 2022 will make them compliant on these fronts going forward. So that's the that's the diversity, equity, inclusion bit that we're talking about. As far as sustainability is concerned, I think at Brookfield we're fortunate to have a business which is very driven by sustainability. I mean, we have something called Brookfield Renewables, and we work very closely with them to enable our clients achieve their sustainability targets. Sometimes through off-site plants, rooftop solar plants that Amit mentioned about. In a lot of places, while the overall business globally needs credits, to offset some of the carbon. I mean, those are strategized out of India, and they are being procured, and we help our clients procure them. So those are some of the things that we are focused about. Effectively, from a property level, we try to ensure that we become net zero, first in waste, second in water, and finally in energy. In a state like Bangalore, you can reverse that because the enabling laws for becoming net zero on energy is much open and much more inclusive in nature. So in Bangalore we have accelerated that, but the idea is to achieve net zero in these three parameters, as an overall vision and blueprint.
Wonderful. Really, really great points, great perspective. Thanks, Shantanu, for sharing those thoughts. And Faraz, would request you to summarize and share your views on the previous questions relating to the GBS theme, operating model shifts, as well as embracing DEI and sustainability as key strategic imperatives.
Absolutely. So from an operating model, right, just going back to the earlier question, one of the things that we are clearly seeing is just from a reporting perspective, right? I think increasingly teams that are getting mature in India have solid reporting lines globally, right? That's something that we're seeing, and increasingly the dotted lines are getting more solid. The other thing that is important to understand is the level of separation from the customer, right? So in the past, we've seen several layers of separation in terms of where the GCC leaders reporting to the customer, where the customer lies, right? I think these layers are actually are reducing with the GCC leaders. They're getting more closer to the customer, which is significant from an operating model shift. The other key aspect, and that was also alluded to earlier, was the hub and spoke aspect, right? In terms of how India is becoming a hub, and you have multiple spokes across maybe tier 2, tier 3 locations. But what's also evolving is how spokes need not just be in India, right? You could have regional spokes as well. We've seen several organizations that have hubs in India, and you have spokes in other countries, right? It could be Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, say Malaysia, Mexico, Eastern Europe, and so on. So that is a true hub and spoke model that we are seeing that's evolving. And yeah, of course, I think the final aspect is on the operating model is just the KRAs of the leaders, right? We are seeing significant shifts in how KRAs of leaders in India are being linked with business outcomes, right? Not necessarily the specific function outcomes. How the product performs in the market is also a key responsibility of the product leader in India, right? They just cannot work in isolation, and integration with the sales and business teams becoming even more important today. So those are my sense on just the operating model aspect. On DEI and sustainability, I think I can spend an hour, but just very quickly on the DEI front, I think 2 or 3 aspects that I'd like to highlight here. One, just apart from gender diversity, on LGBTQ, people with disabilities, PWD related aspects, I think one of the things that organizations are focusing today is on autism, right? Autism sometimes not detected, and is very important for managers to be sensitized on this particular aspect. So that's something that we're seeing coming about, and a lot of organizations taking cognizance of that particular part of diversity. Besides that, specifically on supplier diversity, how can we be more inclusive when we look at whom do we partner with, right? And we know of a GCC that works with diverse suppliers and spends about $10 million worth their the vendor partnerships and contracts with diverse suppliers. The other aspect is pay parity. We're in a world where we're all talking about equity, and I think one of the important levers is looking at pay parity across the board, regardless of gender. And finally, I think inclusive technology. I think that's going to be a great lever in terms of just how we can include almost every section of society through technology. And some of the tools that, for example, the video conferencing tool that we're using has so many features that are inclusive, right? So I think technology across our products, across the way we work, is going to be super critical, right, going forward. And last bit on sustainability, I think apart from the various initiatives, the great initiatives that all of us are involved in, I think one of the things that we as GCCs can pick up is tracking our sustainability goals, right? We know of a large BFSI GCC which has a center of excellence in India which tracks sustainability goals. To Amit's point, CO2 emissions, right? Look at specific mandates, charters, and footprint of your how sustainable you are as a team, as a center, as a product, is something that is completely being managed by the India GCC. So apart from just driving some of the sustainability initiatives, also tracking it for the globe is something that we're seeing GCCs increasingly do.
Great. Thanks, Faraz. That was very well rounded. Thank you so much. And my last and final question for today is about your views on the GCC outlook for 2024 and beyond. So, and again, I would request you to answer this question not just from the standpoint of the specific vertical your GCC operates in, but also from a broader ecosystem perspective. So as GCCs transition into this, new wave 4.0 to 2023 onwards, they're looking to build niche competencies, foster global leadership, monetize services, increase collaboration with the peer GCCs as well as government bodies on policy formulation, tap into uncharted frontiers, and navigate the the latest generative AI paradigm. So on the back of these developments, what are your thoughts on the way forward for GCCs, be it from the standpoint of GCCs with established operations in India looking to expand, or new GCCs planning to set up base in India? And I would request Shantanu if you can take this one first, please.
Sure. No, I think I'll answer it in two parts. First part is a GCC coming into India, right? And today they rather focus on trying to understand the lay of the land, where the talent is, and all of that. But I think a lot of the times, a lot of the focus goes on where we want to set up ourselves and all of that, and real estate, by the way of it, is not so flexible unless you kind of design it that way. So that's where we as kind of developers come in, because in our portfolio, if a GCC is coming in to just to set up a country office and understand the lay of the land, we can provide that, and then we can also provide somebody, a 1,000 or 2,000 seater kind of a full-fledged kind of GCC center. So that's the broad range, right? Second thing is that as GCCs try to scale up, right, the very first thing that they need to establish is the trust and the credibility, right? And once they have established that, then comes the capital, right? Because capital in today's economic world is very scarce, and not every GCC. I mean, if you go and talk to any GCC today, their first priority is to establish trust and capital, trust and equity and credibility, and then ask for capital.
Right.
That's where we can also come in, because as far as setting up the offices is concerned, which is the biggest capital that is required, that is something that we as developers can provide. Secondly, is once a GCC has established a particular scale, right, and they want to now kind of expand, now whether they do it through a hub and spoke model or a multi-city model, it is imperative for them that they focus on standardization and partnerships. Unfortunately, again, on the real estate side, there are very few who have a truly pan-India presence in each and every city in the country, and each and every market in the city in that country. So what we have done for a lot of our clients who have those ambitions and are taking that leapfrog, is that we have a partnership where they just come and tell us, this is the place, this is the size, and this is where we want to kind of set it up. Everything else is already templatized, right? So they don't spend a lot of time in scalability. They don't spend a lot of time in seeking capital from the HQs, because they say, hey, I'm not asking you for capital, I'm asking you for work, and that's a very different conversation when the GCC has with the headquarter, with the HQ. So I think that's where we are seeing the next wave as it grows. We are trying to align ourselves with these needs of the GCCs, depending on which stage of the growth they are, and trying to kind of solve for them.
Wonderful, wonderful, great inputs. Thanks, Shantanu. And Amit, how do you think 2024 and beyond is shaping up for GCCs and the ecosystem?
Yeah, so firstly, I think the growth journey of GCCs will continue, because the tailwinds are extremely strong, and those are multi-year tailwinds. So I think most of the surveys talk about 10-15% growth in GCCs, like literally 5 GCCs every month. So I'm talking about new centers, but then existing centers are also expanding on some of the niche capabilities. I think we need to change maybe the metrics around growth, right? So we many times talk about GCCs in terms of number of employees and all. I think we have to start talking more from capability, the impact these centers are creating. Even a 100-member GCC could have a significant impact. So I think that the metrics need to change. Now, from a group standpoint, the original purpose of the GCCs was more on execution, optimization, footprint expansion, and access to the talent pool. I think as many of the global corporates are also looking at diversifying their business segments, entering into different streams of business, or building new capabilities, or accelerating digital agenda. That's where I think GCCs have a very strong value proposition to play. So that's the second point. The third thing, as I mentioned earlier as well, we need to look at things in a very holistic manner, right? That we are not just alone. We have, tech companies, we have outsourcing providers, we have startups, innovation, we have direct domestic industry. So we have consulting firms. So how do we really look at things in a very holistic view? So and focus on your core capabilities and partner where you want to venture on new things, or you want to try out experimentation. Shantanu also talked about that. Was news to me from a real estate standpoint, but I guess the approach is becoming more flexible, holistic, and I'm sure the hybrid models will also eventually settle, right? I think initially at the time of COVID, everyone was going remote. I think now everyone is realizing how workplaces are becoming primary, but at the same time embedding lots of flexibilities. So exciting year ahead. Looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Very interesting thoughts. Thanks, Amit. And Faraz, I would request you to sum it up and share your views on this as well, looking ahead.
Absolutely. So just from a numbers point of view, so India is poised for substantial growth, right? In the next 2 years, we're projecting the number of GCCs to hit 1,900, and soon this is going to cross 5,000 GCCs, right? And to Amit's point, absolutely, I think we agree with the fact that perhaps the metrics should change, and it's just not about the quantum of people or quantum of centers we have, but also the kind of value we provide, right? In terms of, it could be number of products that we're owning at concept stage, right? And the kind of value that we're driving across multiple functions. So maybe next time around when we have this report, we will try and quantify that to whatever extent we can, right? Also from a market size perspective, we're expected to cross about $60 billion, right? And the headcount itself is going to shoot way past 2 million by 2025. But specifically coming to the factors that I believe we need to watch out for and will drive growth, the next wave of growth is one, how we adopt and ride the generative AI wave, right? I think there's a huge potential and a lot of unknowns there. And the potential of technology is immense, and it's we have to see how India quickly adopts to this technology and makes it our own, and you never know, the possibilities are unlimited. So that's one. The other one is also a huge opportunity with respect to working with peers, right? We've seen a lot of GCCs create great outcomes in silos, but can there be more collaboration, coordination, cooperation with the GCC ecosystem, your peer organizations, right? Instead of anything and everything being routed from headquarter location, we have a incredible edge around time to market if we get this model right. And lastly, I think a huge responsibility with all the GCC ecosystem, especially the evolved ones, is to start collaborating with the government, right? Both the state government and the central government for influencing policies. I think a lot of this we've learned over the past couple of years in terms of the remote hybrid, the policies around that, as well as driving technology advancements for the country, right? Working with the government and enabling a lot of that. I think there's a huge role that we can play as a GCC ecosystem. That's something that I believe we can aspire for.
Wonderful. Thanks, Faraz. Thanks for sharing those thoughts. And with that, it is a wrap on this episode of GCC 4.0, the redrawn blueprint in a hyper-connected world. Thanks a lot, Faraz, Amit, and Shantanu, for sharing so many incisive and compelling insights during the discussion. It's truly been riveting. Stay tuned for more insightful discussions happening in the Indian tech industry with the NASSCOM Insights YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. Till then, it's goodbye from everyone here at NASSCOM Insights. Thanks so much.